Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is an action movie review. We're going to be having a look at Red Dawn today. This will be the remake that was released in the US in 2012 and obviously not the original version. So Red Dawn is a remake, reboot of an earlier film of the same name, and it's essentially pretty much the same story. They've not changed a hell of a lot in there. The story is about an invasion of the US by North Korea. Now, in the original film, it was actually sort of Cuba and the sort of Soviets, but this was amidst the Cold War, so it was, you know, a liable enemy, really. So they changed it up to North Korea, but it's worth noting that the actual, when the film was first made, because it has been sat on the shelf for a little while, the invading force was actually Chinese, but they changed it because they didn't want to hurt sales in China. So they made it to North Korea, which kind of makes it a little bit less believable in a way, because obviously China, if they did turn against the US, would be a credible threat. But North Korea, obviously, although they're certainly dangerous, it's not quite as on the same threat level. So that's one of the few changes. Now you can kind of forgive that one, really, I guess. But there are a few things throughout the film that they have changed that I wasn't so keen on. So basically, you've got the invading force, and it tells the story of a group of teenagers that essentially band together and sort of go off into the wilderness and fight against the invading force with guerrilla warfare and surprise attacks, and eventually become a credible force against the occupying nation. Now, one of the changes that they've made in this film was the main character, I suppose, played by Chris Hemsworth, and this noting he was actually in this before he was Thor, so they kind of got a major star for really before he was famous, and Josh Hutcherson as well was in the Hunger Games later on, so again, you've got two more well-recognised actors that they kind of obviously got for a little bit cheaper because it was filmed so long ago. So he's Chris Hemsworth's character is actually in the Marines, I believe it is. In the original, they didn't really have any sort of military background, and I actually preferred that because you got the impression that they really were kids purely surviving on instinct and their sort of wits. Whilst in this one, you've got a guy who's already trained by the military, kind of leading them. Obviously, I suppose in that respect, they'd probably stand a better chance realistically, but I kind of like that they were really just pretty much clueless kids, really, and who really had this arc where they learned to become a credible force just on their own. One of the other things that I wasn't so keen on with this film, in the original, you get a sense that they've been in the wilderness for quite a long time. So you see the seasons. So there's some scenes in the winter, for example, when it's snowing, and you actually get sort of dates on there how long they've been out there. In this one, the modern film, it all seems to take place in a lot shorter time because you see no change in the seasons. It all tends to be looks to be summertime to me. So you don't get any sense that they've been out there for ages and are kind of really sort of having to hone their instincts and that. So it seems you have no idea how long they've been out there for. So that was a negative point, I thought. I much preferred the original. And the original is no classic, I would say. It's certainly not one of the sort of the best films ever, but it was certainly an enjoyable action film. And you know, it was fairly sort of unique in that in its sort of premise, really. The action as well, I would say, in this one, there's a fair amount of action, and a lot of scenes are actually lifted straight from the original film. Now, another point I wasn't so keen on with this film was there's quite a lot of hand-to-hand fighting in it, and the camera work and the editing I think is fairly poor. It's standard kind of, it goes into shaky cam and it's quite close up and edited fairly choppily, and you can't really see what's going on. I didn't think so. It kind of bugged me because I was like, I can't really see who's fighting who a lot of the time. Now the scenes where there's gunplay, you know, they're obviously it's taken from a wider camera angle, so you can kind of see a bit more what's going on. So that's a bit better. but the changes they have made, there's never a change where I think, oh, that's better. They've done that better. The other major grub I have, I didn't think the chemistry was as good between the sort of ensemble cast than it was in the original. You didn't get that sort of, because I didn't think they went through it as a bigger arc. You didn't get that sort of sense that these people are changing and really sort of growing together. A lot of the cast with the initial, they're blatantly cannon fodder because, I mean, fair enough, you can't have everyone's sort of story to the same sort of degree of detail, but there's some people who you just know are going to be cannon fodder and they barely have any lines. So overall it's an okay action film. It's certainly a time waster. I don't know if I'd recommend you go and see it at the cinema. It might be worth having a look when it comes on DVD or something like that, but generally speaking, if you kind of like your action films, it's going to be one you're not going to really remember. So I would give this one a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? How did you feel it compared to the original? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time.